Hi, everybody. Welcome back inside Manhattan Athletics. Christian Heimall joined by the associate head coach for sprints and hurdles here at Manhattan College, Joe Ryan, and also the Olympic coach for the Guyanese team in Rio coming up this summer. Joe, your third straight games with Guyana. What's this like for you?
I guess it's a little bit different because in the previous two Olympic Games, I was working with Alian Pompey. And with this Olympic Games, I'm working with another athlete from Guyana. His name is Winston George, and I've developed him over the past 4 years. So I guess in that respect, it's going to be, a little bit different. But, but obviously, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I kind of feel that with my previous experience that I've got a pretty good idea of what to expect. And I'm really looking forward to getting to Brazil. I think it's going to be good.
What does it mean? Because, so many folks and athletes work their entire lives just to get to one Olympic Games. You've been able now and will be able to now say that you have coached in 3 Olympic Games. What does that mean?
Well, I've had at least one athlete compete in the last 7 Olympic Games. But if you're an athlete, to be honest with you, it's the pinnacle of athletics. To qualify for the Olympic Games today or even for World Championships, the standards now really are so much higher. So to give an example, in the 1970s to qualify for the 400 meters you had to run 46.4 seconds. Now the qualifying standard is 45.5. So back in those days, 45.5 was a really, really outstanding time. It's still an outstanding time. But truly nowadays, track and field has become a global sport, and the standards are, so much higher. To get there as a coach, I just feel that it kind of validates a lot of what I've been doing over, a long period of time. I've been on this campus now since the 1970s. I think I've had some incredible experiences, and quite frankly, I'm very grateful to the opportunities that have been offered to me by Manhattan College, being recruited for Fred Dwyer, working with Dan Mecca. And it's been a fantastic experience, but it really is kind of one of those situations where it's almost an extra thing for me to kind of to a certain extent, because it's to be involved in international athletics for as long as I have. It's very gratifying, and also the fact too, it gives me a chance to be around the world's fantastic coaches.
You mentioned Alian, and I want to talk about her a little bit because you coached her in the last couple of games, and she was here, the former Jasper, of course.
Right.
What is the difference between grooming a collegiate athlete and then grooming an Olympic athlete?
I think there's a lot more stress involved. Because to be quite frank with you, you really can't make a mistake. When you're preparing somebody for an Olympic Games, your training, it's really got to be on, because if you make a mistake and if the athlete, if they get injured, that could it could impact their participation in the game. So from a coaching point of view, it's very that's extremely stressful. The other main difference too is that when you're preparing a collegiate athlete, you kind of train them for 6 months, and they basically run for 4 or 5 months, to a certain extent, and everything else in between. When you're working with an international athlete, obviously the training is different, because I don't have to worry, so much about preparing them for a lot of competition. I'm more interested in preparing them for a peak performance, and they're not going to be competing as much, but they're going to be competing at a much, much higher level. And also too, as well, when if I'm preparing somebody for World Championships or an Olympic Games, the goal for me really is to get the best performance where it counts. So for instance, when Alian, when she ran in Beijing, she broke a national record. She just missed making the final, and we were very, very pleased about that, because that's when you want to put the best performance together. Unfortunately, you have people sometimes who struggle to get qualifying standards, for the Olympic Games, and they actually preparing them to get the qualifying standard is almost the main thing, and then when they get there, it can be a little bit of a difficult situation.
Is it possible, and I know we're here to talk about the Olympics, but I want to ask a little bit about with regards to Manhattan. Does it help you having this experience on the Olympic stage in coaching your Manhattan Jaspers teams?
I think it does. I think when you're coaching in the Olympic Games, I think, first of all, it validates the training that you normally do. Mm-hmm. I think it gives you a lot more confidence, as a coach. And I think the opportunity to interact with, coaches from other countries, I think is a wonderful experience. And yeah, you do pick up, some things that perhaps you can bring back to campus and you can apply them to working with your own athletes.
So take us through your team a little bit that you're going to be taking down to Rio.
Mm-hmm. Well, Guyana it's a very large country. The population is not that large. So we have 4 athletes, competing. We have a 100-meter runner. Her name is Vanessa Thompson. She's very, very good. She's run 11:1 for 100 meters, which is a fantastic time for, a female athlete. We have a triple jumper. His name is Troy Doris. At one point, up to maybe 2 months ago, he was ranked number 2 in the world, quite frankly. I think his rankings probably dropped a little bit, but a really, really outstanding jumper, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how he is going to perform. There is a 400-meter runner. She's actually a collegiate athlete from South Carolina. Her name is Aaliyah Abrams. She's run, in the low 52s. Mm-hmm. And then I have my own athlete, his name is Winston George. I've been working with Winston now for 4 years. I actually met him in London, and it's been a fantastic partnership. And he's come up here from Guyana to train with me for maybe 6 months out of the year, at various, points. Mm-hmm. And he's run extremely well this year. He actually ran a personal record of 20.42 in the 200 meters at a race in California a number of weeks ago. And his last race, which is quite interesting, I sent him over to my own town, Dublin, mm-hmm. and he was over in Dublin last week, and he competed in the the Morton Games, mm-hmm. which is one of the oldest track and field meets in Europe. Actually, it's been around since the 1950s, and he ran a pretty good race there. He ran 45.7. He was pipped on the line, and it was very, very close. But I think it was his last tune-up, before the the actual game. So that's it in terms of competition for him. And now what we're doing is just we're just putting the finishing touches, in our training, and again, as I mentioned before, hoping that maybe I can get that, the ultimate performance where, he can run faster than the time that he ran in Beijing last summer, which was 45.25, and he broke his Guyanese record. So anyway, I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed for that.
For those of us who will never have the chance to compete or coach in the Olympic Games, mm-hmm. what's the timing like? Is there any chance for you to actually get out there and maybe see some of the games that you're not coaching a part of?
Oh yeah. I mean, in Beijing, I've got a lot of interest, in other sports. I'm an old soccer player. Mm-hmm. And I also, I really like boxing. In London, I went to the boxing because I have a connection with Irish boxing. My sister is married to the uncle of one of the boxers on the the Irish team, and his name is Michael Conlon. Now, I watched him compete in London, and he won a bronze medal. He's doing extraordinarily well. The first time I met him, actually, was in the opening ceremony in London. I just walked up to him and kind of tapped him in the shoulders, and he turned around, and immediately I knew who he was, and he knew who I was. And so I actually watched him, compete in London, and he won the bronze medal there. Fantastic performance, really, really fantastic. And he's going to be competing again in Rio, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can improve on the bronze medal. Irish boxers have a tremendous record in the in the Olympic Games, and I think they won 5 medals, mm-hmm. in the London Olympics. Fantastic achievement.
What are you most looking forward to when you get down to Rio?
I guess I mean, I've lived in 3 different countries in my lifetime. I've been to 50 countries now, I believe. You know, we're very close to that. And I've never been to Brazil before, and I just generally enjoy the culture, you know, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting to, you know, experience, you know, a new culture. I think it's going to be, it's always fantastic when you're in the village and just walking around and just, you know, seeing the stars, you know, and just seeing all the little things that, all the interactions that kind of occur among people. And I'm also looking forward to seeing, I've developed, you know, a lot of friendships with, you know, people, you know, from other countries, and I'm looking forward to renewing those particular friendships. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people on the Irish team, and so I'm kind of looking forward to meeting up with some of those guys, you know, and the women again, you know, so I think it's going to be, yeah. But it's just, the opening ceremony is an incredible experience. Closing ceremony, you know, was a lot of fun. So I generally, I do look forward to the opening, you know, ceremony because of the historic nature, you know, of it. So it's a lot of fun.
You mentioned, obviously, you've had 7 Olympics now where there's been an athlete that you've been a part of, a coach of, or whatever it may be. So many different members of the Manhattan family in the past who have been part of the Olympics. Touch on that. Yeah.
If you look at our participation in the Olympic Games, it goes all the way back to the 1930s. And, you know, one thing that I'm particularly proud of is that, I mean, the links are still there, you know, and I think Manhattan track and field has got an amazing tradition, and I think Olympic participation is one of those traditions. You know, if you go back to the 1950s, you know, you look at Lindy Remigino, you know, Ken Bantam and Lou Jones. I'm mentioning a couple of names. I apologize if I leave anybody out, but I think that's a testament to what we've been able to do here in the track and field family. You look at Tom Murphy in the 1960s, you know, Mike Keogh, you know, in the 1970s. Happy to say that he competed for Ireland, which I'm very, very proud of that. And believe it or not, when I was recruited to come to Manhattan College in 1977, I actually knew that because I knew a bunch of Olympians on the Irish team, and Mike was really, really, an outstanding runner. And then we had a couple of people then, you know, in the 1980s, you know, a couple of Irish athletes as well, you know, with Paddy McGrath. And if I can just briefly mention something about Paddy, Paddy's been involved now in the development of young hammer throwers in New York State. And one of his athletes, his name is Rudy Winkler. And Rudy won the Olympic trials in the hammer. And so Paddy's going to be traveling down to Rio, you know, so there's another link as well. And then we're also extremely proud of an athlete that we had compete here in the 1980s. His name is Willie McLaughlin. You know, Willie's one of the legends here in track and field. He co-holds the 400-meter record. And his wife, Mary, was a manager on the track team here in the 1980s as well.
Obviously, we're going to revive the blog, so we'll be able to follow
the blog. Yeah. I did I had to be persuaded to do this in Beijing. But to be quite frank with you, I mean, obviously, you have a lot of responsibilities in the village, but you know, I kind of found that by working on the blog, it just kind of gave me time to kind of I was able to isolate myself, you know, and put my thoughts together. And you know, quite frankly, I had a lot of good feedback, you know, on the blog, and I had a lot of humorous things in there. And for a lot of people that know me well, I think they were able to kind of, you know, figure out that, you know, what was going on to a certain extent. And I did it in London as well, and I've been asked to kind of revive the blog. So yeah. And also too, in my regular job up in the Nanuet school system, because I'm the chair of the mathematics department up there, a lot of people in the Nanuet area, you know, follow the blog as well. So when I go back to school in September, I have students coming up to me, and they're, you know, they're really, really fascinated by, you know, the whole experience, I guess, to a certain extent. So, yeah. I'm looking forward. I'm kind of really. I'm looking forward to that. And I'd like to thank Mr. Joe Clifford for his continuing advice on that, and for keeping things moving.
As it was in 2008 and as it was in 2012, there will be a large Manhattan contingent rooting for the country of Guyana. Joe Ryan, the track and field coach for the Guyanese contingent, coming up in Rio. Joe, thanks a lot for the time.
All right, Chris, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for joining us inside Manhattan Athletics.